Falls Village has its very own school, the Lee Kellogg School, kindergarten through 8th grade. Lee Kellogg is a small school, but that guarantees your child the individual care and attention he or she deserves. Students take charge of their own education by setting the goals for each lesson themselves. Teachers challenge students to accomplish more than the student expects to achieve. Students perform experiments, and that fosters curiosity and self-awareness. They also engage in research. And they work on projects, like the time they interviewed senior citizens of Falls Village and then published biographies of the seniors and presented their findings at an assembly. Learning at Lee Kellogg is collaborative. Students are encouraged to confer with each other. This leads to mutual respect, good citizenship, and a sense of community. Art is important. Music at Lee Kellogg is a lot of fun. A child's experience at Lee Kellogg culminates in the 8th grade when the 8th grade travels to Quebec, Canada. The trip is paid for by the students themselves from many fundraisers throughout the year. For example, they pick up bottles at the transfer station and redeem them at the grocery store for a nickel apiece. Right now, in the 2019-2020 school year, about 66 students are enrolled at Lee Kellogg. The annual budget is $1,977,000. Let's meet two of its outstanding teachers. What's it like teaching at Lee Kellogg? What do you like most about it?
Well, I think I like everything about it. I don't think there's anything that I don't like. If I just backtrack a little bit, I graduated from college in 1979. There were no teaching jobs. I was lucky to land a Title I reading position. You didn't need a special degree then. And I taught reading, remedial reading, K-3, in a school in New York State, and loved it so much that I went and got my master's the following year. I went full-time and I got my reading consultant certification. And then in 1981, when I got the job here, I had 3 offers, and you still couldn't get jobs. And so, and I had 3 offers within like a 2-week span. And so I had a lot of sorting out to do. And when I called the assistant superintendent at Kirby at the time and I said, I have 2 other offers, can you give me a little more time to figure things out? And he said, sure, we can give you a few days. But he said, Robin, pick us. We really want you. And the other schools were not as nice to me about it. And, it wasn't the highest paid of my positions. But there was just something about this place that drew me. And so here I am, starting 39 years at Kellogg, my 40th year teaching, and I've never regretted a day of my decision. I love the people that I work with. I have always loved the people I've worked with. I think that we have an amazing staff. In all my years, I can say that people respect each other. they get along. You know, when my children were ready to start school, we hemmed and hawed about where to place them in Goshen or here. And I was teaching K-1-2 at the time, and my husband said, you know, I don't really know if I want you to have our kids for 3 years. I don't know if that's good for them, blah, blah, blah. So my oldest son started off at Goshen Center. And in hindsight, my husband said for my older son, we should have taken him to Kellogg. It would have been a better fit. And my younger son, he's a different kid. It was a different class, a different makeup of kids. But, you know, hindsight's always 50-50. But I always said, and I'll say it now, that as a parent, I would never, ever hesitate to have my children come here, because I really don't think there's a weak link in the chain. It is such an extraordinary group of people who want to learn and grow and evolve. And, you know, this is a family for me, this whole community. I feel so much closer to Falls Village than I do Goshen. And the day that I walk out of here, I am going to walk out of here in tears. It is going, you know, my road is coming to an end, my journey. But my heart's still here, and I'm quite not ready to walk out the door. But when I do, I'm going to walk out the door in tears. I love this place.
And this also is my 40th year here at Kellogg. However, it's my 30th year here at Kellogg, but my 40th year of teaching. I taught at Indian Mountain School for 10 years, a private school, and I was the head of the Learning Skill Department. And I also taught middle school language arts. And so always had a love of kids my whole life. The difference between Robin and I is I went to Salisbury Central. I attended Housatonic. So when it was time for me to apply to a public school, because when I first got out of college, and the ones that were available, they wanted experience. And when you come out of college, you don't have that. So I pulled all my stops out. My former social studies teacher was then the assistant superintendent. I babysat for the principal at the high school, his kids. So I pulled out all the stops. I said, I would love to get a job in Region 1 and tell me what I need to do. And they said, just apply. And so then I had that experience. And so when I came on board, it was the best of both worlds, because at IMS your days start at 7:30 and they end some nights at 10. And so here it was the same size classes, just sometimes smaller, and you could do so much with them. And I loved it, and I've never regretted it. And the other thing that I wanted to say, to kind of echo what Robin said, is, we are going into our 40th year of teaching, and we're still learning new things every day. And that is one of the unique things about this staff. When new ideas come along, we try it. We don't shut doors and say, no, we can't do that. We all say, all right, we'll give it a go and see how it works. And for us, that made us a leader in the region as far as learning targets go, and as far as standard-based grading. It kind of put us in the forefront, which has been pretty exciting.
It's true. There's a real, there's a professionalism here. I mean, I say the day that I stop learning, then I need to be out. And I don't want to be the kind of teacher where parents will say, oh, that Robin Faust, she's dead weight now, she needs to go. I've said to administrators, if you ever feel like I am not doing my job to the best of my ability, kick me to the curb, because I wouldn't want a teacher standing in front of my kids that wasn't giving it their all, and I don't want that for someone else's kids. So, that the work ethic is huge for me.
And what makes it a lot of fun is that we all do have a sense of humor, and we can, we bring to our classes, a joy for learning in what we do. And I don't think there's anyone that's not excited about what they teach or the classes that they have. And I think that's pretty constant all the way through the building.
I mean, I think one of the strengths here, despite, you hear issues about how expensive it is to educate students in Region 1, well, for that matter, the Northwest Corner, because of our declining enrollment. And that's probably true in many cases, even in the Northeast, and what to do about that. our size is a blessing and it's a curse. I mean, there's real truth to that. But I think the smallness of our school makes us such a family, and the fact that we do collaborate with each other, or we support each other. So, for example, in social studies, they often have different kinds of cultural fairs, an Asian fair, medieval fair, and the whole school goes to that. And we learn so much from each other. It gives the students who are sponsoring that an opportunity to practice their speaking skills, to be teachers, to present to others. And those of us that attend, we learn so much. We've done that for years. It breaks those boundaries down and that appreciation for each other. And then even just sharing between older and younger kids. Paula's kids have done amazing storytelling work with folk tales. They've written terrific stories they've shared with our kids share with her kids, that celebration of publication.
And to elaborate on that, this year the kindergartners shared at the very beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and then at the end of the year. And it was really cool because the 7th and 8th graders, I said, is there any feedback that you'd like to give these guys? And it was so neat to hear the 7th and 8th graders say, I can't get over how confident so-and-so has become in their reading, and they were noticing all these things, and so it was, you can see the benefit, from doing that.
Yeah.
Our students don't just work in the school. This year we had a family who had an accident, and the kids had on a Sunday their weekend off just after coming back from Quebec. They had a car wash to earn money for this family. And I was moved to tears. I just could not believe that these kids, the same weekend that they're coming back, are having this car wash. So I think that, we do provide that kind of awareness and that kind of, community thinking. A lot of the fundraisers that the Student Council has are for the Falls Village Food Pantry. Also amazingly, is the region this year wanted to combine sports. And our school said, nuh-uh. And even though we have very small teams and we win very rarely, the kids love playing on their home court and having their teachers and their families there to support them. Even if they don't win, they like that feeling of camaraderie and school spirit. And so again, it's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling.
What's the most challenging aspect to teaching here?
Well, I was thinking about this before I came, as I was driving in today, and I was thinking, I feel when I first started here, somehow I felt like I had a little more latitude. And now I feel this drive, like I've got only this amount of time and I've got to get, the fact that there are so many standards that you're trying to make sure that you've covered, not once, but many times throughout the year. And I have always thought that I was a rigorous teacher, but now I'm making sure that I'm a rigorous teacher. And that kids are helping to create their assessments. And I just think that there's more put on us as teachers and less taken away.
I'm all for accountability and that kind of thing, but I'm not sure this emphasis on testing has really been a good thing for education in the long run. There's just this emphasis on grade level standards and everybody making their mark or approaching that standard. But there's just a variety of factors that go into learning, and one size doesn't fit all. So we don't teach with one size fitting all, and yet we test with one size has to fit all.
That's true.
And I have a real issue with that. And I think, in the olden days when I first started teaching, if kids got excited about something you were doing in a topic and it went off the road a little bit, you could take the car and you could take a detour. And you go on a little vacation and you could study that topic because there was just such a keen interest. And so some of that learning led to that. Now, if it's really not part of the standard, you really got to get back on that track because the stakes are higher. Like with the Common Core, that's one of the things I love best about it is not on just rote learning the way, learning used to be, but it's about thinking and reasoning and problem solving and muddling and figuring it out. And that part I love. But just and as Paula said, there's still so many standards. I mean, they cut the standards to make it go deep, but you go more deeply with your thinking. But there's just still too many standards to teach.
The other thing I want to add is that we're also teaching work skills, and that in my day, a lot of people went on and they worked a job 9 to 5, and it was repetitious. Well, today it's analytical, it's collaborative, it's and so we have to make sure that we've done that aspect of helping them, verbalize what their thinking is, being able to compromise in a discussion, being able to support your ideas, with evidence, and those skills take time to develop.
Have you had any funny experiences with the kids?
Can I put it on tape? I had just their writing. So I had I don't. You might not want to put this on. You may have to edit this. But I had a student one year. We teach them to use what we call inventive spelling, where they pull the sounds and they write the sounds they hear. So you can write anything, because if you're constantly giving them the words, Mrs. Faust, how do you spell this? How do you spell this? It's going to lock their writing down, and then they're going to want to be perfectionists about spelling and teaching. The whole philosophy of teaching spelling's all over the place. We don't really know how to do a good job with that. But anyway, so we do this called inventive spelling. So years and years ago, we had this reading teacher who happened to walk into my room, and a student was writing about his pencil, and he wrote about his PENIS. And so I called her over and I said, look at so-and-so. It was one of her students. And I said, look at so-and-so's writing. I want to show you this story. He's been working really hard on this story. And her eyes just bulge out of her head. And I said, let me help you read that. Da, 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 da. And his pencils. And she cracked up laughing. I mean, it's that kind of thing.
You have kids that test boundaries. You always have kids that test boundaries. And we had in the middle school, we were doing a share out of reading, and I look over and a young boy is kind of sitting funny on the beanbag chair. I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I wanted to see if my head fit in the bookcase." And I said, "Well, obviously it does. Now what are you going to do?" And he said, "I don't know." But his head was stuck in the bookcase. And so you have little things like that they could really bog you down if you let them, but you're like, okay, so how'd that work for you, kind of thing.
Well, it was my, I think it was my second year teaching, and I was teaching a 3rd and 4th grade combination. And so I was doing reading groups, and then I had students, when they were done, they could free read anything they wanted. And so I had a couple of kids, and they were sitting on the floor, and they were kind of cuddled up, and they, reading, they're reading together. And so I'm doing my thing, and all of a sudden, there's giggling and all of this going on, and I'm looking at what they're reading. They have this big nonfiction book, and it's like, what's so funny about that? And I just kind of looked over, and then the laughter escalated, and it was looking to become disruptive. So I had to kind of stop, and I'm like, so I get up and I go over, and inside this big nonfiction book was Playboy magazine. And this boy had taken a whole bunch of his father's magazines and put them in his backpack. Now, mind you, I'm 24 years old, okay? I'm a teacher, or 25 even maybe. I'm teaching only 3 years, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 20 shades of red. So I need to take that. So I took it inside the book, and then finished what I was doing, and then I went over quietly and said, who does this belong to? And the boy owned up, and we went outside, and I said,
do you have any more? And he opens up his backpack and he's got a wad this big. So I said, well, you know what, that's really not appropriate to read in school, and I really need to take those. So back in the day, we didn't have plastic bags. We had brown paper bags. So I put them in the paper bag, and I had to call his mother at my break. And she was beside herself, and she said to me, oh, Miss Warner, my husband's going to hear about this from me. And I'm like, look, nobody else knows what you read now except for me. Don't worry about it. I'm trying to make light of it. And here I am, like 25 shades of red as well. And so I said, well, I will just put it in the office. It'll be in a brown paper bag, and I'll just leave it in the office. And, you have to come pick them up. So she comes in later in the day, and the school secretary said, oh my God, like she was beside embarrassment. She tiptoes in, she sees the bag, she snatches it, and she walks out the door. So that was one of my experiences. When I taught with Linda, she had an experience that we both laughed about. We have this kid who was always one of her favorites, and but when he was little, he really needed to be on a leash, if we could have really put him on a leash. And he is just, his family, and he's just lovely. The family's lovely, he was lovely. He was just a free spirit when he was young. And so Linda, he asked to go to the bathroom, so she said, sure. And you get busy teaching and you forget. And she's in the kindergarten room and she hears, hey guys. And she goes out in the hall. She doesn't hear anything. She's thinking. She goes back to teaching. Guys, hey guys. She goes back out in the hall like she's hearing things. She doesn't hear anything. So she goes back to teaching. And it never dawned on her that this little guy hadn't come back because, you get busy doing what you're doing. So finally she hears it again. She goes out in the hall and he put himself in his locker. Now there's a latch inside. If you put yourself in your locker, you can lift the latch. But he couldn't do it. So he's stuck in this locker for however long, probably half an hour, 20 minutes until, and then we had to have a discussion with everybody about how you never hide in your locker, it's not safe, and you can't get out, and cha-cha-cha. And so that was one of the things. Oh, I can tell you another story. One of my first years here, I think it might have been my first year, second year, well maybe not, I don't really remember. But I had recess duty, and we did recess K-5 in one person. And we used to have recess over here, we were at the playground. And it was time to come in. No, I was teaching first grade, so it couldn't have been, I was probably teaching here maybe 5-6 years. So we all come in from recess, everybody lines up, come in, and I realize one of my students is missing. And so I ask a little boy to go to the bathroom and check to see if he's there, and we can't find him. And and so I had to go get I said, we didn't have phones back then or walkie-talkies. So I sent somebody up and I said, would you please tell Mr. Reed that I need to see him? It's very important. So the principal comes down and I said, I can't find this student. And my heart is pounding. I said, we just came in from recess and he didn't come in. And, and I looked outside and he's not there. So we checked the whole building. My heart is pounding. We had a tree back here. He decided to climb the tree. And he's up in the branches. And nobody could see him. And I don't know how the principal finally found him. And that little boy would not come down out of the tree. He's going to stay up in that tree. So we almost call the fire department. It's like one of those things. And so we call his parents. And he wasn't going to come down for his parents either. And finally did. But that just scared me to death because, I lost a kid. It's like, and he climbed the tree. The tree's cut down now, but that's not why.
I've made it public. I am retiring this year, and I've made it public for 2 reasons. One, because I need to get used to the idea, because I have worked my whole life. I'll be 65 in May, and there's not a day that's gone by that I have not worked. And so I'm looking forward to being able to take some time for me. The other reason I've spilled the beans is because I have kids that really, really think that I should wait for them to graduate.
You can wait forever.
And that's what I said to them. Honey, there's always going to be another one who wants me to stay. And if I keep doing that, I'll never have time for Paula. So I have made it public. I am retiring this June. And I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that this place will always be in my heart because I've just grown so much here. Every day I grow. Yeah.
And we all have chapters in our lives. Like, so I'm probably 2 more, this year and next, and then I will follow Paula. I mean, there comes a time when you have to, start the next chapter.
And it's not that I don't enjoy what I do, because I love teaching. I love kids. I enjoy going to work. But I also know that enough is enough. I can't keep working 10-hour days. I need to take time for me.
Well, we only have one chance, right? We have one go-round.
Right.
And you have to put all those pieces of the puzzle into that, on that road. And, at some point, it is time.
Yeah.
But like Paula, I've never woken up and said, I don't want to go to work today. I have
I've
never done that. Matter of fact, I've hardly used any sick days. If we got paid for all the days that we were not sick,
I could have retired 5 years ago.
I could have such a cash flow coming, it wouldn't even be funny. I think my longest was my 1 maternity leave. I didn't get 1 maternity leave. Back then, I couldn't take it because of when my son was born in the summer. So I took an unpaid leave because I stayed out in the fall. But, personal days, most years, I don't even use them, because they're really for personal business. And if I don't have any personal business, I don't use them.
Yeah.
Some people use them because if you don't use them, you lose them. But so I've never not wanted to go to work.
I'm
Never.
the same way. I often come, maybe not 100%. I might be 80%, but I'm here, and I give it 100%, even though I might not feel up to it.
I feel you've given 100% to this, and I'll let you know I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
you're very welcome.
So
Thank you
so
for an
much.
opportunity to share.
My pleasure.
Yeah.